Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Lot of stuff going on here as we're getting into, yes, the end of the week, but also what that ends up meaning is that, yeah, we are doing that whole free-for-all Friday thing, which means that we are taking on all of your comments, all the calls, everything we can cram into 2 hours of the program, which never is quite enough, but we do our best. So already have those, yeah, already Friday being celebrated there. Bernadette Bandicole, appreciate it. And also Calvin Williams with the wave as well, demonstrating what you can do there. And Amber Banda, rock on, certainly. And if you want to get on the phone line, we do have that open as well. And, okay, a couple notes there. A, the phone number is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We're also going to be doing that next giveaway. We are going to be doing it by phone, so definitely keep that number handy. Don't worry, we'll have the phone lines kind of reopen when we do that part of it. But we are, again, taking those calls right now if you want to get on the line to add your 2 cents on all the things that have been affecting us here in the borderland and beyond, because the gloves kind of come up. Okay, this is not a drop the people's elbow kind of moment. But if there's something that has been not quite in our usual purview, a little bit outside, a little bit further afield, which, I mean, I feel like we flirt with enough anyway, but this is the time explicitly to do that. So if you may be having just something burning, concept, question, issue, etc., now's the time to do it. So pressure relief valve for the week, because there's always more than we could possibly get to. I mean, hell, the cable channels do it 24 hours a day, and they still don't get to everything, much less us. So I feel like we do our fair part and a fair bit to talk about the things, but let's really delve into it here today. So remember that number, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. I did have at least one thing that I wanted to mention here, and we kind of mentioned it yesterday, but it was only really in passing. El Paso Matters this week had a review of just here's the article title for it. Climate Charter could cost thousands of jobs, billions in earnings, Chamber says. Subtitle, environmentalists who petitioned for the climate policy to appear on the May ballot call El Paso Chamber's claim, quote unquote, fear mongering. So there's a whole lot more details in there. But just to say that, the El Paso Chamber's statement is that El Paso's workforce will be cut in half within 7 years if voters approve the ballot measure in May. And so about 170,000 jobs, nearly $8 billion in workers' earnings between now and 2030, according to their analysis. And there's been, again, a lot of back and forth here, including we've had previously guests on the show here, such as like the Sunrise Initiative and those kind of stuff, El Paso Climate Charter. And yeah, there's a lot of back and forth that has been happening with this, but there we'll have to see more on what comes with it. I think I may have conflated some agencies there. So, because it was actually it's the Sunrise El Paso. There we go. Sunrise El Paso organization, and some commentary on that already. But again, that's just something that's been, we didn't quite end up getting to, but I want to make sure we do. But if you want to get on that phone line, let's just go ahead and jump into those, as well as, of course, those comments over there as well. James Holmes commenting on that, saying we do not need climate police. I think there's going to be a lot more back and forth on this whole issue before we end up getting to May. But let's go ahead and jump into those phone lines. Again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Joe on the west side here with us right now. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. I wanted to talk about something very disturbing that Biden last week when he was in Poland. And to me, the Democratic Party is a party of the letter D, and that doesn't necessarily stand for democracy. It stands for death, destruction, and damnation. And look at history, what history has taught us about the Democratic Party. In the early 1900s, President Wilson, a Democrat, got this country involved in World War I. In the 1940s, President Roosevelt, a Democrat, got us involved in World War II. And then in the 1950s, President Truman, also a Democrat, got us involved in the Korean conflict. 1960s, Johnson, a Democrat, got us involved in Vietnam. And in the Middle East, after President Bush won the war in Iraq, President Obama, a Democrat, pulled our troops out of Iraq, extending the war and killing hundreds of thousands of people. And when Trump came in, Trump had a pretty much finished with the Middle East wars. And then the Democrats stole the election for Biden. And he stupidly pulled our troops out of Afghanistan, which is leading to what's happening right now. The same party is now looking at starting World War III, whether they know it or not. And the president's presentation in Poland, he was catering to the Americans that he is tough and brave. And if we go to war, he's going to be a good leader. And he'll be able to win the next wars.
Okay.
And he was directing his presentation to white Americans, trying to impress them that they need to stand with him. Because normally whites are the ones that fight all the battles, fought the war. I mean, 10% of them will always fight our battles. And he wants Americans to trust him after he has been calling them, all white people, including Hispanic whites, racist, white supremacists, and mega terrorists. Now he has no choice because the LGBTs, the migrants, the woke crowd, and the BLM, and the Hollywood types, they're not interested in exposing themselves to the consequences of war. And I want to say this to Mexican Americans, Mina Latino, don't be stupid. The Dems are using us. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, interesting analysis. I appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Thanks.
So, it's already been mentioned in the comments over here. I mean, I get what you're saying, and frankly, okay, you want to put it about how, frankly, the United States has often worked. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it's been something, the analysis that the United States has either been actively at war or actively involved in a conflict, even without an actual declaration of war, for the vast majority of the country's history. I mean, it may often seem that we think like, World War I, World War II, Civil War, American Revolution, but there's been other smaller things like the Korean War, often put as the forgotten war, frankly, that has been going on pretty much the entire time. I need to find the exact part of it there, but I will say that the whole FDR call out, I'm not quite buying there with you. Among other things, there was the Pearl Harbor attack. And if you want to end up going into a huge historical analysis of, well, we were being maybe not the most friendly with the Japanese as they were doing their huge imperialist push, like, I'm not going to say that every step was taken right, but I'm going to say that saying that, well, FDR dragged us into a war, no, that was the Emperor of Japan, or at the very least his high command, bombing the ever-loving hell out of Pearl Harbor at that time and trying to take out the U.S. Pacific Fleet. Like, that is they declared war on us as a part of that. So I'm not going to quite follow with the FDR analysis on there. I think that if he hadn't responded with war, we'd be maybe not speaking the same language anymore. Anyway, point is that, sure, there have been lots of, like, the U.S. has been a very conflict focused. And okay, even in the Korean War, that was a whole start, if you're going back in historical analysis again, of the, frankly, whole world police thing that America has been kind of involved in ever since. I mean, sure, that was technically through the United Nations and trying to see that as a global peacekeeping body. And sure, like, peacekeepers exist, but I have, let's just say, certain lack of faith in that actual body and that kind of force being used if it's not actually being a part of, like, well, what the United States is doing. So you can like it or not, but I will say that also allowing that to move forward, just saying, oh, well, yeah, let Korea invade South Korea. Well, that's also why Vietnam happened. And let's just say that Vietnam was not a single party issue. So you want to say that they're litigious and don't like them, I mean, there's plenty of reasons to dislike any of these presidents. Let's be honest with you. Wilson, particularly, the fact that he showed Birth of a Nation and called it, if I'm remembering the quote correctly, history written in lightning, makes it, just a whole lot of other reasons to be just, what the hell, dude? But, okay, I mean, if you don't like a party, you're certainly entitled to that here, but let's be clear on the fact that there is often quite a lot of implications on either side of this. And to say that, well, only one part of it would be kind of a misreading of national politics, even as it exists here. On the more modern part of it, that speech in Poland was certainly interesting, and some of the subtext around this as well are, of course, what Vladimir Putin has been talking about, the leader of Russia, particularly in the abandonment of the SALT treaties, the strategic arms limitation treaties that are, let's just say, it was before my time. I wasn't really a conscious human being before technically even existed, before the fall of the Berlin Wall. So I'm not really 100% on that, but let's just say in my historical readings on this, I'm getting some definite shades of, I mean, heck, the calls have even been happening ever since the invasion of Ukraine about the whole peaceful coexistence kind of mentality. That was the, I guess, logical underpinning for the entirety that happened during the Cold War, which kind of then further calls into question of, was it really peaceful coexistence or just a punching each other behind a cloak as opposed to straight in the face kind of thing? Yeah, there's a lot of issues I have with this whole way things are moving. Sure, if you may or may not like the whole bulletin of the atomic scientists and their doomsday clock, I don't know if I really disagree much with their analysis about being very close to it, because there have been close calls in the past. I was actually watching some recent documentaries about the close calls that happened when there was the whole, strategic air command, constant bomber circlings, and, more active Minutemen. We still, of course, have the nuclear silos, but us being close to that and the close calls that have happened previously, there were literally false alarms that happened that were called off because people were acting like rationally, and there being a lack of rational leadership and fingers on the button, so to speak, is never not concerning, but just feels like it's been just to a whole nother level this time around. I'm just saying I'm getting shades of Cold War that I didn't even really live through, and I'm not exactly happy about that being an adult at this point either. So, I mean, there's a lot more to get into there, but let's go ahead and take that next break right now, because there was a lot being mentioned there. A couple things I want to mention before we hit that break is that we are going to be doing that next giveaway today as well, but we're taking those calls and all of that throughout the rest of this hour and into the next as well. So taking that break, coming back, and more calls in the line. So that number to do so, if you want to do so, is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
No crashes on your El Paso freeways right now. Slow traffic, Montana Avenue eastbound, George Dieter out to Zaragoza with 9-minute delays. Northbound Mesa Street from the downtown exits up to I-10, it's a 7-minute backup. Injury accident reported eastbound Edgemere east of Zaragoza, and a crash on eastbound Red at Westwind Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
It's probably America's most important speech, but it wasn't even the headliner. We'll have the story of the Gospel of Gettysburg. Be sure to catch this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, El Paso, this is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas, for helping us be number one again in new Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram sales in January. As a gesture of gratitude, we're offering huge savings in all new and certified pre-owned vehicles. Interest rates as low as 0% for 72 months, and as always, exceptional trade-in offers.
Trade and upgrade for less during the President's Day sales event going on now at Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. For a limited time, get 0% interest for 72 months on new 2022 Quad Cab Ram trucks. Super low 1.9% APR on new 2022 Crew Cab Ram trucks. Get $2,000 off MSRP and 1.9% APR on 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredos. Worried about your trade or credit? Don't sweat it. Our lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. At Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat, where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $13.89 and 1.9% APR is $14.48 per thousand financed. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
A catalytic
converter is an important component of your car's exhaust system. They can cost several $1,000s to replace. Cats can be removed in under a minute and have a high scrap value. Keep your vehicle safe from cat burglars. Park in well-lit areas. Install a protective device. Have your VIN number etched onto your catalytic converter. It's a total catastrophe. If your catalytic converter is stolen, lock it down. Learn more at lockitdowntx.com. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Children who grow up in poverty are part of a destructive cycle. At Child Fund International, we find this unacceptable. In 25 countries, we are vigorously fighting poverty and improving the lives of children and their families. Learn more at childfund.org.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Those are the chiming in, dropping those likes and reacts anyway. Ida Beza Gardner, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, Bernadette Bandicol, James Holmes, and Monica Cervantes. Do appreciate that. And Richard DeMille asking, do we have callers? We certainly do, but I mean, come on, you can't lay down an analysis of someone's thoughts on the entirety of U.S. conflict from the last century and into this one, and just be like, all right, cool, moving on. Like, come on. If you're going to bait me, at least let me respond to the baiting. Anyway, let's, not that I'm really blaming them here, but, like, come on, there was some big thoughts there. Anyway, if you want to get on the line and add in your 2 cents, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And we do have more callers. And just to make it clear, we'll be taking those calls throughout both hours of the show as we usually do. But then towards the end of this hour, we're going to be doing that next giveaway for those Cheap Chick tickets. We have one more set to give away. And so it'll be a trivia question this time around. So make sure you know your stuff. It's going to be a maybe a little bit of a tricky one because we just got that one set left to give away after all. So you're going to have to earn that one, but just keep that number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM, for kind of either purpose, either trying to win once we announce that, or when we are just still taking those calls on that. So on that point, we do have Ed on the east side here with us right now. Ed, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Andrew, you know how we talk about patronizing our local businesses and stuff?
Certainly.
Well, I'm here to tell you that Valentina's restaurant down on Oregon, down there by the old church, has got darn good chili relleno.
Okay.
So I just thought I'd call it. I tried that place out today, and my God, it's a very nice restaurant, very nice. You know, down there by the old Catholic church.
Yeah, familiar with the area. And I've been there myself there lately, but
here to testify, good job.
Fair enough.
And I don't know. My neighbors told me that the U.S. sent some soldiers to Taiwan. Is that right? I didn't hear the news.
So that's a more complicated question that I think you initially asked for. So there have been even state visits to Taiwan. I want to say one of the more recent, or at least controversial ones, was back when Nancy Pelosi, so I mean, like not too long ago, but Nancy Pelosi was speaker, and it was either her, she went, or not, and there were other presences there. But okay, you start getting into real big questions about, okay, what is Taiwan, and why are the Chinese Communist Party so absolutely livid about any time we do something like that. We've also done like major arms sales, particularly missile systems, but other platforms as well, to Taiwan, all in defense of the Taiwanese Straits that separates it, that like, what is it, like 90, 100 miles, something like that, between the actual island and then the mainland China. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have probably like quote unquote advisors or personnel, technical experts, those kind of things, maybe present in the area. Actual deployments, not so much, because even though this whole thing's been going on, there is still officially, and it's been the policy of the U.S. since, I think, at least Nixon, if not technically before that, of the one China policy, saying it's that's, well, because that's what again the Chinese Communist Party says. Oh no, Taiwan is part of us, even though you go back into history, some of these wars we've been talking about weren't exactly in that one, but basically aftermath of World War II, Mao Zedong and his guys came out of the mountains and came against the nationalists and said, hey, by the way, we're kicking y'all out, and basically drove them to the island of Taiwan. And they've kind of been like, you're part of us, and Taiwan's been like, no, but it's just kind of been in that stalemate ever since. Yeah, that's a real 30,000 foot over, like, flyover overview, and that's way more complicated than that.
Yeah, well, he told me that they had sent 200 of our guys to go train the Taiwanese. That's what he told me, but I haven't seen nothing on the news or nothing. Okay, Andrew, hey, listen, buddy, you're a chili relleno lover. Go check them chili rellenos out. They're damn good.
Well, appreciate the recommendation, and interesting question there. I haven't heard anything officially like you're mentioning, but I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case. Let me just put it that way here, but I appreciate the point in the call.
He didn't tell me where he heard. He just told me they sent 200 of our boys to go train the Taiwanese on some kind of weaponry or another. But I don't know. Okay, Andrew, take care. Go get you some chili rellenos down there at Valentina's. I guarantee you'll like that restaurant. It's a very nice, clean, and it's local, and we got to patronize our local companies.
Yeah, certainly agree with you on that idea there. So, all right, well, thank you very much for the call. You have a good one there.
All righty. Thank you, Andrew. Bye.
All right. And a couple of questions coming out of this. And for those asking who it was, that was being referred to as Valentina's restaurant. I think we have another caller associated with the place as well that sometimes shares his perspective as well. And I mean, yeah, we have sometimes interviewed local businesses, particularly those that have of interest in a kind of a larger story or have situations going on. I mean, we're interested in the business community and how things work that way. So we're not opposed to them being like a mention here. But if you want to like have us actually promote y'all, we have a sales department. Let me just put it that way. But Valentina's an answer to Austin Redfern's and Bernadette Bandicola's questions. Yeah, just I mean, if it's your personal experience, if you're having a relationship with the organization and you don't disclose that, then we can kind of get into problems. But that's more on my end. Anyway, we do have other calls in line here. Let's get to a couple more of those. And just an answer there, actually, Stars and Stripes has it as of there that more U.S. military trainers headed to Taiwan. So that does seem to be, according to the Wall Street Journal, apparently the original source. So, yeah, that's a thing, it appears like. Anyway, more calls in the line here. Before we hit that next break, we do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What's on your mind?
Well, this war in Ukraine, I think we're getting too involved, spending too much money, and the rest of Europe is not doing enough.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of analysis to be done there, but okay, let me put it this way, at least by very, again, kind of 30,000 foot view, is that there's a line that kind of came out of the rest of like the global war on terror of fighting them over there so we don't have to fight them here, and there's reasonableness, and I think that even some of the people involved directly in the conflict and fighting on it on our behalf, our service members have more or less, there's arguments to be, I've had a lot of long late night discussions with, friends I have who have served on that whole concept, but that idea really kind of, at least in my mind, bears out within this conflict. I mean, this is proxy, at least on one side, proxy industrial warfare, because, I mean, if any of this was happening in an actual NATO country, yeah, we'd already be in World War III, just plain and simple, because that's what that would be. So the fact that it has somehow, at least for now, remained contained is just, I wouldn't have, if you had told me this would be the situation in 2019 or even in 2020, I'd have been like, are you sure it's not going to get a lot bigger than that? Because it sounds like it's gonna. So the fact that it's remained any semblance of contained, and I'm using that with heavy air quotes here, just to make that clear, I would have been incredibly skeptical about. But it is essentially the first example of industrialized warfare on any kind of like national scale, more or less globally anyway, since World War II. And so the fact that this is going that way, let me put it this way, I do see this as a fighting them there as opposed to fighting them elsewhere. And yeah, there's a whole lot more that gets into that, but the amount of funding and oversight that goes with it, I mean, this is not a, well, we got to do everything we can. I'm never really feel that way about any issue. And given the fact that Ukraine was a new and probably still is a notoriously corrupt country, does lead to additional questions, but let's just say I'm kind of edging one side of the scale more than the other about what I'm concerned about.
Very true, very true. Well, and I'll put it this way. Let me make another point. I don't trust Putin at all, and he's wielding a lot of influence in Mexico. Mexico is part of that. We talked about that pact involving Venezuela and some other countries.
I don't think Mexico is officially part of like the BRICS. What is that? Brazil, Russia. Is it India? I think, and then and China and others. So that's a whole nother, not exactly like Western versus Soviet and Soviet aligned republics kind of thing, but it has echoes of it. I'll put it that way, even if the whole ideology of say capitalism for communism isn't totally at place here.
Well, myself being a relic of the Cold War, I see this thing brewing again. But my next topic, I just wanted to say, this climate initiative that they're talking about, that's on the ballot for May.
Yes.
I think this is a Trojan horse, and there's this is not fear mongering, but there's a lot of crazy stuff that could come out of this. It's just not worth it.
I mean, okay, so and it's still not up, at least as of last check, on what is going to be in this on that ballot yet. Unfortunately, they've got the countdown clock to where we're at like 70 days, give or take away. Let me pull it up here real quick. Yeah, 70 days, 13 hours, 26 minutes as we are speaking right now. But the actual elections that are coming forth, the charter amendments and the climate policy, those parts are up over on the city clerk. So just search city clerk for City of El Paso, and you can see and start delving into. It's not like easily laid out and really like simple language. It's legalese, but the actual ordinance calling for it, and therefore the text and like all the subsections and all those things, it's visible on what will be, at least in part, on the ballot over there. Again, it's not a real simple URL, so I'd just say it out loud, but just search up City Clerk, City of El Paso, and click under elections, and it is viewable and visible over there right now.
Correct. Do you recall when they had people out there obtaining signatures on their petition?
Oh,
remember that?
I absolutely do. I got approached at least a couple of times. I don't usually do it, but I was in restaurants around downtown El Paso about that time, or even just kind of nearby, and they were doing a pretty strong canvassing effort. At the very least, I don't know if it was just a fluke of me having been out more than usual at that point, but yeah, I was approached at least a couple of times for that specific issue. I think a couple others as well, but definitely the climate initiative and climate policy was, and it's not something I can really recall having happened before.
Right. Well, the way they were trying to hook people to sign that was, they always like to mention clean air, and the three times that I was approached by these guys, every time I made an attempt to talk about the benefit of fossil fuels, and we need fossil fuels, all three times those people turned their back and refused to even engage in any type of conversation.
I mean, okay, I certainly, and I'd probably do something similar to you. And then in my instance, I just told them, no, I can't sign a petition. I'm a working member of local media. I'd actually like to speak with you all further about this. And that's kind of how we ended up doing some of the interviews we had kind of through that method. So I just, as a note here, I don't sign petitions because I do what we do here. Even if I have my own personal thoughts on them, don't make political donations, et cetera, et cetera. Y'all are certainly welcome to, as your lives as private citizens and not trying to constantly talk about these issues in a public capacity. Anyway, point is that I would guess I wouldn't be too surprised that they would be like, okay, buddy, I'm here to get signatures. If you don't want to sign, I'm going to move on, because that's their job at this point. Though I would also encourage them, and I expect there will probably be before May, and would hope there would be chances to like have that discussion, because I think I've mentioned about the show before that the whole top down of like, no, we just need to do this, and so just get on board or you're a problem kind of mentality, that workability of it, just it doesn't, plain and simple, it doesn't work.
Well, I did see them engaging in dialogue with others when it suited their agenda. But anyway, that's another thing. Anyway, I would just say I'm not for this. I think it's, like I said, it's a Trojan horse. It's going to cause more harm than good. And no, it is. This is not fear mongering, but when it comes down to new buildings or new constructions that you cannot even have a gas heater in your house, wait and see. It's going to be a big problem.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just say I'm in favor of things being more efficient, being able to be done better, maybe less costly, even if it's not direct costs, hidden costs, environmental costs, those kind of things. Willing to at least consider them. But when it starts coming oh no, you can't live the way that you were, or oh no, you just won't even have the option to have things in your house. You have to go with these restrictions and those kind of things. There's a level that starts becoming unacceptable, because like there's just a whole lot of reasons I don't live in California or New York, or among many other things.
Understood. Anyway, I turn the mic over to you again, and you have a good weekend.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call. You have a good one there as well.
Likewise.
All right, and with that, we will go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, get to some more calls, get a little bit closer to that giveaway we're getting as well, doing that towards the end of this hour. So stay tuned. Again, that phone number is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Fidel Moreno Mesa with your CBS 4 News update. A photojournalist shot and injured while covering a story in Florida is an NMSU graduate. Reporter Dylan Lyons was shot and killed while covering a homicide scene. Photojournalist Jesse Walden, who graduated from NMSU, was also shot and is now recovering. Walden's journalism professors at NMSU say they felt a rush of emotion when they heard what happened. Journalism students we spoke with tell us that it was disturbing to hear about the incident and even more shocking to hear the connection News 22 has with it. Despite their concerns, students tell us they would still like to become journalists. Less than a year after the previous city council voted to extend city manager's contract, the new city council is once again taking up that discussion. City Representative Joe Molinar and Brian Kennedy placed the item on next week's council agenda. The item includes discussing and taking action on Tommy Gonzalez's contract. For more news headlines, head to our website at cbs4local.com. I'm Fidel Moreno Mesa with your CBS 4 News update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 eastbound slowing down. Trans Mountain to the Patriot is a 10-minute delay. On Loop 375 southbound in the East Valley from Montana down to the 10, it's a 6-minute delay. Montana Avenue eastbound Yarborough out to Zaragoza, it's a 10-minute delay. Disabled truck is blocking the right shoulder on the loop southbound at Sergeant Major. Heavy traffic on North Mesa from the downtown exits to the I-10. 5-minute delays. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. Your weekend forecast, weather for your Saturday looking nice. We're going to see mild conditions going into this evening. Lows tonight dropping down into the 40s by tomorrow morning. We're looking at 70s for your Saturday. Sunday, we have a weather-worn day for wind. High wind watch in effect 9 a.m. through 11 p.m. on Sunday. Could see gusts to 60 miles per hour by Sunday. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
It's probably America's most important speech, but it wasn't even the headliner. We'll have the story of the Gospel of Gettysburg. Be sure to catch this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Haley, quote, Navage is the best thing I bought. I love it. My nose feels so clear now and I can breathe. I've been struggling with a stuffy nose for weeks. I bought Navage and it's amazing. Or this one. I use Navage every night, could not imagine life without it. I have 5 cats, and before I found Navage, I was a clogged mess. Now I breathe so much better, unquote. Those are 2 of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
It's probably America's most important speech, but it wasn't even the headliner. We'll have the story of the Gospel of Gettysburg. Be sure to catch this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at kcsmradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of people tuning in, chiming in over there. And if you want to get on that line, okay, it just filled up, but if you want to add your 2 cents, the number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Going to be into some more of those calls, but then also getting closer to that giveaway here. So let's just dive straight back into it right now. Well, one comment I want to get to there, Austin Medfern on the whole Ukraine issue, saying that what Ukraine would need initially is weapons and supplies, but cash, I mean, there's reconstruction costs. Like, there's a justification for it, but accountability is kind of always needing to come along with it. Anytime there's blank checks, there's just a whole lot more questions that I end up having. James Holmes saying, I am truly a believer that prevention is worth more than the cure. Should have never gotten this bad. I think maybe in response to a James Ratcliffe's previous comment saying there's a quote by President Eisenhower, quote, preventative war was an invention of Hitler. Frankly, I would not listen to anyone who seriously talked about such a thing. I mean, preemptive strikes, ideas like that. There's the whole subsection of history and kind of philosophy as well. But that's another show, frankly. Anyway, let's get to those phone lines again. 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Bill and Anthony on the line with us here right now. Bill, thanks for joining us.
Yeah. So, I just wanted to say, I think you guys should have about 3 minutes every show talking about the border problem that we're having and all the people coming over and living downtown and, just tearing up the streets and all that stuff, I think that's real important to get out, to get out in the public, let them know that it's still happening and that it's a real waste of time going down to the bus station. And it's a waste of time going to the baseball games and stuff because they're writing stuff all over the cars and everything. It's unbelievable that nobody's put their foot down and said, well, let's not do this anymore,
I mean, we don't necessarily do like a dedicated segment every time. I'll grant you that, but I feel like we talk about it more often than not on this program. I mean, I at least very much.
The thing is that it happens every day. I mean, it doesn't matter if you do or not. And the thing is that there should be in my opinion, there should be a segment every time you get on the air about something that's actually happening in El Paso, not in the Far East and not somewhere else, Just like 3 minutes or something, to dedicate something to the hometown of where the radio station's coming from. So, that's what I'm thinking.
All right, well, I appreciate the feedback. I mean, we definitely focus on the issues that are going on here in the borderland, and that has been more, I don't say it's probably come up more shows than it hasn't, but yeah, I appreciate the feedback. We're always willing to take in constructive criticism anyway.
All right. Well, have a nice day.
All right, sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call. Have a good one there as well. I mean, yeah, it's something that definitely comes up. One point that actually I wanted to mention that reminds me of actually that that I had kind of suspected, or I'm not going to call it a called shot or anything, but I was wondering if they were going to be, with all the what I call them the rabbiting efforts, the anytime that there is a smuggling effort in a passenger vehicle that gets challenged by law enforcement, even just a flashing of the lights, they take off, and it feels like more often than not end up crashing. That in bulk is where you really see the money coming in, and there was that incident that at least I think one of our callers mentioned earlier this week, but I had neglected to mention, so was that there was it's actually not in El Paso, but at one of the Border Patrol checkpoints on I-25. It wasn't exactly an 18-wheeler, but damn near close. It was a box cargo trailer that had a 61 crammed into it. So yeah, that's definitely going on in our region. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to a couple more calls before we end up with that next one. We do have Raul on the Northeastern line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. So this has got to be one of the most famous or infamous phone calls and asks I've ever heard. Come on, guys. I just need 11,780 votes. Come on, guys. Give me a break. And, if you don't do this, you might be in big trouble. You might be in big trouble. Now, any president, any person who would want to be the president of the United States who is trying to steal an election and got caught so notoriously is unqualified to be president of the United States. Don't you think, Andrew?
I mean, if you're actually asking me the question in this case here, anyone saying that, well, just, make it happen regardless of will of the voters is not going to be someone that I'm totally going to find myself agreeing with or being particularly fond of, even though being fond of politicians and supporting them just because of their personality is not something I do much of anyway. So in these circumstances, as I've pretty much always called for, full investigation, like court proceedings, those kind of things would be the best way to handle this. And so that's what I do think is, at least in part, been happening there. I mean, this is not totally locally happening, so I've been more the kind of 30,000 foot view on those circumstances. But I mean, if something was done, it should absolutely be investigated. I'll agree with you that much.
Well, something actually was done. We got it on tape. They got it on tape. And this is probably what's going to bring on that indictment there in the state of Georgia. So, and that's just one of many, many crimes. By the way, the January 6th thing, Andrew, was a whole lot more than a riot. It was a coup that was planned by Donald Trump. And he had all kinds of guys there. He had the Proud Boys there. He had the Oath Keepers there. And this is step 7 of a 7-part plan to overturn the election. That included, come on, guys, I just need 11,780 votes. Hey, Pence, you better do it, or I'm not going to like you anymore. And the next thing we're hearing is, hang Mike Pence, hang Mike Pence. So, I get on this theme, Andrew, because this is the biggest thing that's happened in my life in terms of politics. It's bigger than Vietnam. It's bigger than 9/11, because this was a group of Americans incited by the President of the United States to attack the Constitution, the Capitol, and Congress. And he could have gotten a bunch of people killed. This is as serious as it gets. And yet this clown, this wannabe dictator, wants to be president again. And what's really scary is all the lemmings in his cult that are ready to vote for him again. The 1/3 of the Republican Party that is so crazy that they want this clown there. And again, some of these people are violent. That's what's really scary. They're violent. They're ready to go out and kill people to get what they want. They're giving up on democracy. They've tried gerrymandering. They got the electoral college going for them, but that wasn't enough.
Let me just put it this way. Anyone that calls for violence, anyone that says there is no political solution, anyone who says we just need to take it by force is someone I am always going to find myself opposed to in that effort, because doing any of that is literally against the American system, the American way, the way we have created and maintained our, again, whole system. So anyone saying that, no, I know what totally is right, therefore I need to get into place regardless, ends justifying the means, is the kind of very simple way to put it. Kind of mentality is, well, there's been anyone who thinks that's new is really needing to read up on their history, because there have been so many people throughout history have said, no, we totally need to do this right now. It doesn't matter how we get to about it. So anyone, and it's never particularly worked out. Let me put it that way. So anyone saying that, yeah, this is what we need to do, it's the only way we can move forward here, is never going to be someone that I'm going to support in that effort, because it's unreasonable and, again, literally un-American. So anyone saying that, yeah, I like it, because ultimately, even if you like what's going to come out of it, the mentality that engenders is just so toxic and destructive as to destroy everything that's around it. It's like burning down the building in order to make sure that you can get into the room that you want to. Like, sure, it may give you the temporary. It comes back to the whole concept of political expediency, and that's what often a lot of this idea of armed conflict, takeover, other coups that have actually been coups around the world, I'm not agreeing with you on that point, make that perfectly clear, is that it's about saying, well, we need to take force, but you're then also paving the way for what comes next. I mean, there's an argument to be made that Stalin wouldn't have been able to take power if it weren't for, like, essentially the Trotskyists saying that, oh, no, we need to accomplish anything we can, therefore we do it by violence. And that, I mean, Stalin wasn't exactly an innovator. He wasn't, honestly, that smart of a man by my analysis, but he was brutal and was very willing to stroll down the path that others paved for him. And that's where the problems come from, and why I am, among other things, always going to find myself opposed to those ideas. So, I mean, appreciate the point in the call, even if we are not finding a whole lot of common ground there, but maybe more than you think. But if we're focused on the names and the individuals and the personalities here, I think we are missing the larger picture. Do we have time for one more quick call on the line here before we hit that next break and announce that contest? Actually, we do have Jerry in the Northwest with us right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Andrew, for taking my call. Andrew, do you recall? I know you're not young enough to know it, but do you recall a guy named Daley that was the mayor of Chicago?
Oh, yes, I do believe so.
Okay, well, he was also one of those that was able to come up with a couple 100,000 votes in the back of a trunk of a car when the Democratic Party asked for him. So, but that's not the reason why I called.
Sure.
The reason why I called was to ask you if you have been studying up on the AI that you said you're going to study up on.
I've been doing a lot of personal reading, still trying to get it like into an interview, but I mean, Chat GPT, the AI art and those kind of things I've been kind of steeping myself into, because it's fascinating and potentially, I'm not going to say it's immediately disturbing, but there's just a whole lot, if not done right, as with most technologies, could be really, really, really bad and destructive.
Yes. Well, one of the ones that I want to bring up on is a patent that was put out. Bill Gates put it out, and it was the patent 20060606, and it deals with cryptocurrency systems that are generated basically from what work you put out from at your workstation with your body. And it has sensors and such that are attached to your body. And if you wander off, your mind wanders off from work, they deduct so much from your pay. Okay, stuff like that. That's how far it can go. Okay, and the reason why I bring this up, because there is a thing that's called the 13th Amendment that deals with slavery, and that we should not be put as slaves anymore. And we had a civil war over that. Okay, and again, it was the Democrats that caused that. They're the ones that wanted to keep slavery. And so anyway, I just wanted to bring it up and inform people that this AI stuff can go a lot further. Okay, and that's not a conspiracy theory. This is actual patent number. You want to look it up? It's 2020 060606. Look it up, patent, and you can read as much as you want on it.
Yeah,
Bill Gates.
Bill
Gates had put it out.
I've seen mention of this before here, and it's an interesting one, essentially saying that to be rewarded with cryptocurrency. This is my basic reading of it, that you have to basically be in motion or be verifiable body activity, and yeah, the AI systems verifying that or making sure it happens. Frankly, I don't even think we've seen the full implications of the blockchain technology that is behind cryptocurrency and what that may mean. It's been a lot talked in like the decentralized revolution, those kind of comments, but the idea of making it verifiable even in through a distributed system, there's that's a whole nother show, frankly, here. But again, as with any technology, if not handled right, appropriately, and frankly in a way that is intended to benefit as opposed to implement consequences, could be very bad indeed.
Yes, and in April, I don't know if you know this or not, but President Biden had signed an executive order in May last year. I believe it was last year, 2020. It might have been 2021. That they're going to start implementing in April, 2 months from now. They call them Biden bucks. They're the cryptocurrency little discs.
Sure. Mm.
Okay, that will store your information, and if you don't buy certain things, let's say if you're slightly overweight, and you go out and you buy a gallon of ice cream, well, and you try to pay it with your Biden bucks, that little chip that they gave you, they're going to reject you're able to pay for your groceries because they know that you're overweight and you're buying ice cream.
I mean, we're already
down to that level.
Let me just say, I've seen similar-ish things already in place in China with the whole, social. I remember the actual name of it offhand, but like the social capital, the social score. It's like straight out of the Black Mirror speculative, really dark future show. But yeah, just saying that anything done to implement control as opposed to help promote freedom and prosperity of people is not something I'm going to take very lightly here. So appreciate the point in the call too. We've got to end up taking that break, and we're actually going to end up going straight through the end of the hour here right now. But we're going to go ahead and ask that next question that we do have up for you all when it comes to that giveaway, because we do have that. We want to make sure that happens. We got one more set of tickets to give away to Cheap Trick being here in El Paso this weekend. So the question that we're going to open up those phone lines for right now, just for answers on this until we come back at the top of the hour, is what was the last time Cheap Trick, the band, was in El Paso? What was that year to perform? When was Cheap Trick last performing here in El Paso? What was that year? We got one more set of tickets to give away for Cheap Trick. So taking those calls in the line right now. If you got the answer, call in 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
54 southbound starting to slow down from McCombs down to Trans Mountain. 25-minute delays. It's slow on and off on the 10 eastbound from Trans Mountain to the Patriot with 10-minute delays. Southbound on the loop at Montana Avenue in the East Valley, a disabled truck is blocking the right shoulder. And there's an accident reported Airway Boulevard at Edgemere. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Want to save 50% on new blinds? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters with free shipping and prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 50% off any order during Blindster's extended President's Day sale. Hurry, sale ends March 1st. Blindster.com.
Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now. I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code DRIVE for an extra 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code DRIVE for a 25
News on the
cents
hour
bonus
and a
on your
half.
first tank.
Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The trial of Alex Murdaugh is adjourned until Monday morning. Murdaugh admits he lied to police, stole money from clients, and was addicted to drugs, but insists he did not kill his wife Maggie and son Paul. He blamed most of his actions on his drug addiction. Murdaugh faces 30 years to life in prison without parole if convicted. The U.S. ambassador to the United Nations says China giving lethal aid to Russia in its war in Ukraine would be a game changer.
It would be something we would have serious concerns about. They've not done that so far.
and we hope that the messaging to them gets through.
Linda Thompson Greenfield spoke to NBC News and said President Biden, along with Secretary of State Blinken, have given warnings to their Chinese counterparts. She said China would be crossing a red line by providing that aid. Meantime, Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is calling for an audit of the aid the U.S. has sent to Ukraine in its year-long war with Russia. Greene plans to introduce what's known as a resolution of inquiry in the House to find out exactly where the funds are going. The Internal Revenue Service is extending the tax filing deadline for people in areas affected by recent disasters. John Bernaise has more.
The 2022 tax filing deadline is being extended to October 16th for people in storm disaster areas of California, Georgia, and Alabama. It applies to people living in counties where a disaster has been declared by FEMA. It includes individual returns, business returns, and the filings of tax-exempt organizations. Among other things, this means eligible taxpayers will have until October 16th to make 2022 contributions to their IRAs and health savings accounts. Filers don't need to contact the IRS. They'll get the extension automatically based on zip code.
John Bernaise reporting. Rare blizzard warnings are now covering even more of Southern California. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Home sales are on the rise. The Commerce Department says sales of new single-family homes rose 7.2% in January to an annual rate of 670,000 units. That's the highest rate since March 2022. Industry experts note rising mortgage rates could dampen the trend. Crime in New York City's subway system seems to be going down as ridership nears 4 million people a day. Natalie Migliori has more.
NYPD Commissioner Keyshawn Sewell says crime in the transit system is down by about 8% compared to pre-pandemic levels in 2019.
And year-to-date, transit crime is down 18%, a little over 18% actually.
She credits the improvement in part to assigning an additional 1,200 officers to the transit system last year.
But again, what does that mean if people don't feel safe? So continuing to have increased visibility in the subway system is important. Continuing to have the engagement with our commuters is important as well.
Her update on transit safety is part of New York City's newest effort to hold regular briefings on public safety. I'm Natalie Migliori.
California has more reported UFO sightings than any other state since 2001. Daniel Martindale has the details.
That's according to research analysis conducted by bonusfinder.com. The website analyzed data from the National UFO Reporting Center State Report Index. California has 15,480 officially reported UFO sightings since 2001. Los Angeles is the state's leading UFO hotspot with nearly 600 reported sightings. Most reports involve people seeing circles, spheres, or triangular shapes in the sky.
Netflix has announced a new stand-up special with comedian Wanda Sykes. Wanda Sykes' I'm an Entertainer is her second hour-long Netflix special and was filmed at the Miller Theater in Philadelphia. It will hit Netflix on May 23rd. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Want to save 50% on new blinds? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters with free shipping and prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 50% off any order during Blindster's extended President's Day sale. Hurry, sale ends March 1st. Blindster.com.
A catalytic converter is an important component of your car's exhaust system. They can cost several $1,000s to replace. Cats can be removed in under a minute and have a high scrap value. Keep your vehicle safe from cat burglars. Park in well-lit areas. Install a protective device. Have your VIN number etched onto your catalytic converter. It's a total catastrophe. If your catalytic converter is stolen, lock it down. Learn more at lockitdowntx.com. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority.
Rosetta Stone, where language is learned. RosettaStone.com.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
Alphabet Boys is a new podcast series that goes inside undercover investigations. In the first season, we're diving into an FBI investigation of the 2020 protests. It involves a cigar-smoking mystery man who drives a silver hearse.
And inside this hearse was like a lot of guns.
But are federal agents catching bad guys or creating them?
He was just waiting for me to set the date, the time, and then for sure he was trying to get it to happen.
Listen to Alphabet Boys on the iHeartRadio app, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Want to be 100% certain about your taxes? Jackson Hewitt backs your return for life. Switch today and get 50% off tax prep. 50% off is a limited time offer for new clients filing at participating locations. Max value $200. Visit jacksonhewitt.com/50 for terms.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. However you're tuning in with us, however you're chiming in, however you're participating in the show, if you want to do so, you're in the right place for us to be talking about the things that affect us in the borderland and beyond, as well as, well, just having those discussions here. Having live local talk radio is certainly important to me personally, but then also, well, there's more we get to on these days, because it's not just about the borderland today. It's about all the things that y'all want to bring up. Free for All Friday is what we call it, and that means that we're getting into, well, the nitty-gritty, the details, the pressing subjects that we may not have been able to get to, including some examples there, like a Patriot chick over on YouTube saying we are in the East Palestine area, moving my sister out of the village is much worse than what's being said. So black suet substance all over the place. Again, the kind of analysis I've heard is that, well, essentially it's kind of like the Exxon Valdez or Deepwater Horizon, but like on land. Well, maybe that's more my analysis than anything, but very interesting. I hope you're all staying safe out there as well. But more, and also to the question that we had asked for that giveaway for the Cheap Trick tickets, I think we might have a winner on the line here, assuming we do. Anjo Rueda was guessing Mountain Shadow Lakes in 1985. That was a performance of Cheap Trick, but the question that we asked right before that break was, when was the last time Cheap Trick performed in El Paso? And we had a couple of guesses that were unfortunately wrong, but I do believe we ended up with a winner. Did we end up with a winner? So we did get a winner on this here, so we will be opening back up those phone lines for the regular phone calls now. So we can have congrats actually to, I think we have on the line with us right now, we have Frank and Messia, and you were actually our winner in this case. Frank, you there with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Hey, I just heard I'm a winner.
I mean, you had the right answer because the last time was 2010, so you came up with that, right?
That's right. You know what? I never heard of these Crookshank people, so I got up on the what do you call that thing? The internet, and I researched crankshank people. Yesterday, and I said, well, who are these people? What do they sing? Da 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 da. Where they been? They've been a lot of places. They must be very popular.
Well, you're going to get a chance to see them as they're coming here on Sunday, so congrats there. But were you wanting to comment on the show today otherwise?
Yeah, let me chime in.
Sure thing. What's on your mind?
Oh, okay. Well, this is Friday, and of course, this is a bittersweet day because, you're gone for the whole weekend and stuff until Monday and stuff.
Sure.
But let me just say this, I mean, we got all these horrible things happening that's going on politically, economically, socially, and stuff like that. But, I think everybody out here in the Southwest border region, all the genuine, hard, fast, true blood Americans, got to believe that things are going to get better. You have to have that thought process. We just cannot go through a nation and continue going on and being negative and stuff. So I think, as my final point for Friday here, is that everybody just needs to suck it up a little bit because things are going to get better. That's the way we do things in the United States of America. That's my point.
I guess I agree with you in a sense that, I mean, we talk about serious things because I feel the need to not talking about it certainly doesn't solve anything. Like just saying like, yeah, everything's fine, like head in the sand kind of mentality has never worked out for any organization, individual, entity, body politic, enter grouping increasingly large here just kind of hasn't ended up working out. So talking about it is something that I think we need to do, but this is not to say that therefore everything is doom and gloom. I mean, by objectively in a whole lot of ways, quality of life is better than it ever has been, even if, again, we are facing challenges. This is not to say that your individual circumstances, your mileage is absolutely going to vary. In aggregate, yeah, the world does continue to keep getting better, but making sure that keeps happening as much as is possible, yeah, that's kind of the way at least I come at it.
So you're absolutely right. But look at it in this situation, right? Humans put themselves in a particular situation for whatever reason, right, wrong, indifferent. And the same humans are going to put themselves in the right place. That's the way it works. If you know you did something wrong, you look at the circumstances. I did this wrong. This is not working. Let me use my human brain to figure out how the heck I get out of this thing. And that's how we're going to do it for the whole United States of America. That's the way I see it.
No, I agree with you. Definitely there in concept. Absolutely.
Well, there you go. See that? Now, listen, you have a beautiful weekend right now today in downtown Mesilla. Oh, it's just like, my goodness, it's summertime out here. We're like 74 degrees out here. It's absolutely gorgeous out here in Mesilla. And oh, by the way, one more thing. I heard Ben. He's ranting and raving about chili rellenos and so forth and so on, this, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's the way it's going to be. Hey, everybody out there, you come out here to Mesilla to Andale's restaurant, and you even get Betty chili rellenos out here in Mesilla. What do you think of them apples, Ben?
If you got a good recommendation, go for it here. But that was actually, I don't think it was Ben. That was, which caller was that? That was Ed. That was Ed that said that.
Okay, Ed, Ben, Tony, Bill, Bob, whatever. Hey, you're going out there saying that this is the greatest thing, sliced cheese. Now you come out here, try it out. Give it a whirl.
Fair enough here. Well, thanks for the point in the goal. And again, congratulations.
Hey, thanks a lot, Andrew.
All right, have a good one there and have a good weekend. All right.
Bye.
All right. With that, so we again have our winner of the contest there today. That last set of tickets for Cheap Trick coming up this Sunday. Tickets are still available, at least as last check I saw with El Paso Live. So if you still want to go there, I think concert starts at 8. Doors open at 7. Cheap Trick in the Abraham Chavez Theater. You might catch me around there as well. Anyway, and a lot of other assertions being made. And Angel Rueda, I mean, just being a community message board, I guess, at the moment here, Angel Rueda saying he's got a China cabinet to give away. Anyone over there in the Facebook comments, go and find him and hit him up there. You can find, of course, the comments over on our Facebook page. Not exactly how I expected to go, but hey, it's Free for All Friday. I'd never really know what the heck is going on sometimes. Anyway, we're back on the calls and talking about the things and talking about serious things in other ways, including Patriot Chick detailing some of their experiences out there. Saying there's a strong odor of burnt plastic, can't drink or do laundry or bathe with a polluted water source, and saying, I think referring to Pete Buttigieg, if I'm not mistaken, Secretary of Transportation, showed up at 7 a.m. with railroad people. So tell you what, if you want to call in, I'd actually like to hear from you, but I might want to actually speak with you more in depth here. So my email address out there, if anyone wants to email me, I have to get some comments here, but particularly if you want to, my email address is andrewpolk@iheartmedia.com. I might want to speak with you further about this and your experiences up there. So again, andrewpolk@iheartmedia.com. But let's get to at least another few calls here. We're still doing the phone lines things, 915-544-5876-544 KTSM. We do have Stephen on the east side with us right now. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday to you as well. What's on your mind?
So, yeah, I heard you earlier this week, and I like what you had to say because, some people were a lot of doom and gloom about, firearms and everything.
Sure.
And you made a really good point about, every day how people make a decision to get in their car and drive, and you are at a much higher risk of dying in a car accident than you are of getting shot. But people go ahead and decide to do that. And I think that's important. The analysis, the risk-benefit analysis that we all kind of make on a daily basis, and putting things in perspective about, what really are the risks in your life, And that's kind of how terrorists win whenever they do a terrorist act, because they instill fear into people and make them worried about, the possibility that, they might be killed in the next terrorist attack, even though the chances of being killed in a terrorist attack are extremely low. And the same is true for firearms, of course. There's a certain number associated with that. Half of the people who are killed by firearms are actually suicides. And the next highest percentage of people are involved in gangs and crimes and those kinds of things. So if you're not committing suicide and you're not in a gang or committing violent crimes, then your risk of getting killed by being shot are extremely low. So you got to keep these things in perspective.
I do think that is important, and the idea of, okay, let's make it very clear, kind of, terrorism, much like gun violence, is not something I'm saying is, yeah, no, it's fine, that should happen. I feel very, actually, surprisingly similar now that you put it in that context to the fact that neither of these things should be happening. But, I mean, if you're just going to, there is a limit to which I think most reasonable people would agree that there's not only things can be done in response to this. Like, I mean, sure, if we encase everyone in concrete with a breathing tube and a feeding tube and made sure that no one could move at all, we'd probably cut down on a whole lot of crime. And yet I think most people would find themselves opposed to that kind of a measure being taken. So obviously there's reasonableness. There's will it actually work or not is another major question to be asked. And what are we actually willing to put up, risk, deal with in order to have the society that we do are all absolutely major questions that come along with this.
Right, and you could put the speed limit for everybody at 10 miles an hour. They won't make cars that can go past 10 miles an hour, and no one would ever die from a car accident ever again. That's the kind of thinking that you're putting forward there, too, that people have given that example in the past. But the other thing I wanted to apply this idea to was this the whole COVID response that everyone had. And there's some information that's come out kind of recently that was kind of interesting to me. Even the New York Times was willing to post about this huge Oxford study that came out that said mask mandates had no benefit anywhere in any country that was studied. It's a huge study, and it was kind of like a definitive thing that kind of confirmed with some studies that had been done in previously with the flu, that these, even N95 masks and different things, they just don't do a very good job of stopping the spread of this type of respiratory virus. So again, if you want to check out the New York Times, I think it was this week or last week that came out with a big article about that, but it's really referencing a big study, Oxford study about that. So the response that we have of forcing kids, I remember this was a big debate. Oh, we're going to force kids to stay home from school, force kids to wear masks at school, and their learning was affected. Little kids who are trying to learn how to speak need to be able to see the teacher's faces and see the lips move and learn how to communicate. And those kids were, permanently maybe affected by some of these mandates that were put in place. And the people who were against that, who went to these school board meetings and were saying, hey, this is not necessary. These masks aren't really beneficial. There's more harm than good. Those parents and people who were trying to call attention to this were ostracized. They were called conspiracy theorists. They were claimed to be tinfoil hat wearers and stuff. And guess what? They were right all along. And my final point, since Raul brought it up, there's been a lot of debates about different court cases about elections in the past, Bush, the hanging chads. Oh, this vote should go to this person, vote should go to that person, or these votes were thousands of votes, shouldn't even be valid because they didn't have the proper signatures. The person doesn't even live in the state. They shouldn't even be allowed to vote. Or there were people who were canvassing or vote harvesting who went into old folks' homes and took advantage of those old folks when they didn't even know who they were voting for, and therefore those votes shouldn't count. All those kinds of things are the kinds of things that go into court to decide who gets those votes, who doesn't, and how to count them. So pretending that, Donald Trump was saying, oh, I want you to, I don't know, come up with some fake ballot somehow to count them. That's one way to interpret that call, because of course Raul is going to interpret that call in that way. So just a thought for people to keep some perspective. And of course, there's no case or recording whatsoever or evidence whatsoever that Donald Trump was communicating with the Proud Boys about attacking the Capitol. There's no evidence for that whatsoever. So have a good Friday. Things aren't as bad as people think, and keep perspective.
Perspective is definitely important here. So thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Take care.
And found the article that Stephen was talking about there. It was an opinion piece out of February 21st from the New York Times from Brett Stevens entitled "The Mask Mandates Did Nothing. Will Any Lessons Be Learned?" I'll have to review that one more fully before I can comment on exactly what he's talking about. But something that has come up and kind of similar, if not exactly an apples to apples comparison, is actually with bike helmets. And what I'm going to come around with this is that it's I don't have an exact study I can point to here, but there has been data I've reviewed previously that essentially that there are, of course, a lot of municipalities end up having like bike helmet laws, particularly for youths and juveniles, those kind of things, that you have to have bike helmets, and that there's certain evidence pointing to that places that have those on the books end up actually having more problems when it comes to actual incidents, accidents, etc., involving bikes, particularly with cars, because there's a solution-focused kind of fallacy that exists within the human psyche, frankly. The idea that, we got to do something, we've done something, therefore it's taken care of, and not a lot of attention being paid to it kind of after that, because we solved it, didn't we? And until there's evidence presented, it ends up coming with that. And bike helmets is a good idea because, sure, I'm not telling anyone not to wear a bike helmet out there. You absolutely should. But in the places, more often than not, where those were required, there wasn't like a lot else going on, because there was this, hey, we solved it. Hey, we dealt with it. Hey, we don't have to worry about this anymore, as opposed to like saying like, okay, what about bike lines? What about other bike safety? What about, making sure parks, stuff like that exists? Because, we don't have to worry about it anymore. We have helmets, don't we? And so that kind of reasoning can be pervasive. And I mean, I wore a more than effective than an N95, and also it's a medical device. I expect anyone to just be able to slap it on and know correctly without doing it very carefully. I mean, there were a lot of videos online of how people actually, like in medical settings, hospitals were doing to reuse, not contaminate, keep safe there, particularly when there were low supplies of like the N95s and more than that. It's a complicated procedure, and particularly just saying, I mean, the surgical, quote unquote, surgical masks that were being put around here, I would still argue were better than not, but take into account that whole bike helmet kind of fallacy as saying, well, we've told everyone to wear a mask, we don't really have to do anything else. Wasn't exactly the case. Again, not saying this is 100% apples to apples, but the idea of, well, we've solved it, or even we just need to do something, even if we don't have anything better to do, particularly in that time frame before other treatments, convalescent plasma, etc., and infusion therapy, those things were available. It was we need to do something, then not just anything. So, yeah, it was maybe not the best way to have handled this. I've said ever since the start of this that the whole messaging and response to this can and should be studied, and hopefully will be, about how this can be done. The kind of example I was referencing a little bit earlier with one of our previous callers about this kind of top-down mentality of saying, well, this is just what you need to do. There's an example directly coming out of World War II, when we were having, particularly in this country and many others, rationing. You couldn't buy just everything you wanted because a lot of stuff was going forth to the war effort. And there was a very specific effort to try to get people to eat sweetmeats or sweet breads, which is organ meat, which is not, at least most Western nations, traditionally actually done. I mean, they've come more into vogue in certain places in more modern days, but it just kind of wasn't done. It was kind of looked down upon, or thought of like, well, that's what goes into sausage, but we don't end up talking about it. So they put out a couple different ways of saying like, hey, consider sweetbreads, the organ meats. And like, if you just did this like as a, you should do it, there was like a 10 or so, like 1 in 10 acceptance rate, or like, okay, sure, I'll try it. But then they also tried community meetings. They tried one-on-ones. They tried town halls to communicate, hear issues from people, have a dialogue back and forth. And I'm not saying it was magic and everyone's like, oh, sure, I'll do it. There were still plenty of people who were squeamish, but it ended up being more like 40% were at least willing to consider it, because they'd had some discussion, they had gotten their own understanding, and had some of their concerns, issues aired and addressed. So anytime we're talking about this top down, like just do it because we said so, how often does that really work in real life? And let's just say, I don't think it works out that well at all. Anyway, let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we got more calls in line, and we'll get to more of them as well. If you want to get on the line, of course, the number to do so there is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound at the Zaragoza exit, a stalled vehicle is blocking the right lane. I-10 eastbound slowing down through the downtown area, Cotton to Trowbridge with 7-minute delays. I-10 westbound at Cotton Street, there's still a disabled semi that's blocking the right shoulder. Heavy traffic on the 54 southbound from McCombs down to Trans Mountain. It's a 23-minute delay. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Want to save 50% on new blinds? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters with free shipping and prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 50% off any order during Blindster's extended President's Day sale. Hurry, sale ends March 1st. Blindster.com.
If you're ready to lose weight and keep it off, then check out Fella.
So I've been with Fella for 3 months and 1 week, and I am down 55 pounds.
I'm Mark. I'm 51, and I'm down 47 pounds with Fella.
Fella is a men's health repair system that delivers powerful weight loss with personalized medication-assisted treatment to help you lose weight for good.
I was bigger than I had ever been. I couldn't tell you how many diets, how many different plans, things where they send you your own food, things where you only eat this. Because there's no personal aspects to it, was completely unsuccessful for me. Through this, it's been completely different.
To get started, take the free quiz at fellahealth.com and discover exactly how much weight you could lose. Fella is so confident in their program that they offer a 6-month money-back guarantee. And for a limited time, new customers can get their first month free, saving $149 with offer code RADIO. Go to fellahealth.com to get started. That's FELLA health.com. Fella Health, long-term weight loss on your terms.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin.
Billy, your gas light's on. We need to stop and fill up.
No way, Jen. Gas around here is too expensive. We can make it a little further.
Billy, listen to your big sister. You don't need to drive all over searching for the lowest gas prices. Do what I do and use Upside.
Upside?
Do you live under a rock, Billy? Upside is the hottest cashback app out there. It's free to download, and you get real cash back for every gallon of gas you buy. I use it all the time, and I've already made around $200.
You can make that kind of cash back just for buying the gas you have to buy anyway?
Yes, I'm looking at the Upside app now, and there's a gas station at the next exit offering 25 cents per gallon cash back.
Okay, I'm stopping to download Upside and fill up my tank. Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code KEY to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, to PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code KEY for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code KEY for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Hey, El Paso, this is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas, for helping us be #1 again in new Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram sales in January. As a gesture of gratitude, we're offering huge savings in all new and certified pre-owned vehicles. Interest rates as low as 0% for 72 months, and as always, exceptional trade-in offers.
Trade and upgrade for less during the President's Day sales event going on now at Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. For a limited time, get 0% interest for 72 months on new 2022 quad cab Ram trucks. Super low 1.9% APR on new 2022 crew cab Ram trucks. Get $2,000 off MSRP and 1.9% APR on 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredos. Worried about your trade or credit? Don't sweat it. Our lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. At Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat, where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $13.89 and 1.9% APR is $14.48 per thousand financed. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
This is Ronnie Lowenfield, Casa Buick GMC. Listen to this.
February may be the shortest month of the year, but Casa Buick GMC has the longest list of savings with the most complete inventory of the year. The 100% sales tax offer continues after record-breaking sales in January. It's on every new Casa Buick GMC SUV and truck. 2022 GMC Sierra Elevation, $49,790 after all tax savings and Casa discount. 2022 GMC Terrain, $34,965. 2022 Buick Encore, $25,910. GMC, we are professional grade. Only at Casa Buick GMC.
Home of the night, guys. Yeah.
On the podcast Really Know Really, join best friends Jason Alexander and Peter Tilden, along with experts, newsmakers, and celebrities, in a search for answers to life's most baffling, intriguing, and annoying questions. You know, those things that make you go, really? No, really?
I think there was a 17-year-old in Rhode Island who ran a candidate that was a deepfake.
Really? Wait, that's news to me. That's really no really right there.
Really, no, really.
Listen to Really No Really on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Whichever works best for you, whatever is the right way for you to find us, hear us, talk about the things we got going on, that's the right place for you to be as we continue our mission to A, have live local talk radio in the borderland, and B, talk about the things that affect us here, and of course, beyond today as we do expand the scope, focus, what we are discussing, etc. If you ever hear me talk about that's more Friday territory, that's what that means, as Free-for-All Friday is what we call this, meaning we're taking on all the topic subjects here. Just keep it clean if you're calling in. The FCC still exists, among other things, and there's even been more cracking down. I feel like, okay, not the FCC, but this idea of language, etc. Just the way the algorithms works these days is nuts, and often like secondary impacts you have to say. If you ever heard the prevalence of the phrase unalived lately, let me just say it that way, because people aren't willing to say murder online is it's just one of those weird modern things. Anyway, let's go and get back to those phone lines now. Of course, that number to call is 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. We do have Tony on the west side here with us right now. Tony, thanks for joining us.
Hey, how you doing, Andrew? Thank you for everything you do, for your good attitude and professionalism and all that. I haven't been listening for a while because so many people were calling in and just turning this into a fireside chat, But anyway, It's your show. I try to keep it interesting, 1 minute, 2 minutes at the most, because I want other people to get to the point and make it interesting for your show and so forth. What I have on my mind, as I said before, I had declared myself the prophet of God here in El Paso, self-proclaimed, because I think there's enough evidence to prove that we are getting to the end times, probably in this generation. There's so many things happening that are just falling in line. The last Euphrates River in Revelations, I think it's 19 or 11, Revelation talks about once that Euphrates River dries up, there's going to be a whole lot of people being wiped out. And of course, the one world order people and trying to get rid of cash and putting a chip in trying to get us to be all digital when it comes to currency so they can control us. And of Darwinism of the government, this is something that those people, even if you don't believe in the Bible, you can believe in logic, mathematics, and Darwinism. And that is the idea that more and more the people who are in power want to survive by staying in power. And one of the ways that they secure their position and stay in power is by having more control. They can control our currency, they can control our food supply, they can control our movement, and they can control us staying home because of a virus and things like that. These are all the things that everybody listening to me should watch out for, because the more they tighten the noose around our neck, the more they limit our freedom of movement, our freedom of purchases, and the more they track our communications and our purchases. These are all signs of Darwinism, meaning the people who are at the top will do anything to survive and to keep their position, survival of the fittest and all that. And then, of course, falling in line with Scripture, the chip and the mark of the beast and all that. So I just want to warn people, please be alert. Stand up, speak when you can. Visit your schools. If you have children in school, you have grandchildren in school, please, 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 I beg you, go visit the school and ask them if you can go to the library. There's some pornography being shown to your children under the health section and under the diversity section and so forth. There's a lot of ugly things happening. Everything that the Bible said, good will be called bad, bad will be called good in the end days. And of course, keep an eye out on the devaluation of the dollar and the bankruptcy of the United States through the spending and all that. So if you want to say something back to me, Andrew, go ahead. Otherwise, Those are my main points for people to pray this weekend. And those who are going to go to God, you got to hurry up and hold on tight and make your decision for God. He doesn't like you to be lukewarm. There's a whole lot of Catholics here in El Paso who are lukewarm. Do me a favor. If you're a Catholic, read your Bible or stop calling yourself a Christian, please. And those of you who are Christian, hold on tight to Scripture. Those of you who hate God, you've already made up your mind to hate and curse God. Go ahead and do it so he can separate the sheep from the goats. And the sooner you do that, the sooner he'll be here to rescue those of us who have turned our lives over to him. Otherwise, the rest of you, I bless you. I wish the best for you. God bless you. God help you make a good decision and admit that you did not create yourself. Your heartbeat itself is in his hands. In Jesus' name, amen.
Well, thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. I think it disconnected there. Let me just say this on the idea of the end times and those kind of things. That's existed pretty much throughout history. I mean, ever since there was history, people were calling and saying that this will be the end of it. And to quote scripture there, specifically one passage has always stood out to be, I believe, Matthew 24:36. But in the at least the New International Version, but about that day or hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. So this is so much to say that not that it's going to be like, yeah, I'm fine. The world will never end. I mean, if you truly believe in Scripture and that way of it, it does call for it. I mean, the part right before that says heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. But let's just put it this way. People have been saying that these are the end times, again, ever since there were times. So prophesizing and calling for it and saying, I see the signs here, literally is not in Scripture. I will say that much here. This is not to say, therefore, that I'm therefore totally happy with the way things are going. As was said previously, like, things I think are overall good. Your mileage is absolutely going to vary, but this doesn't mean that I don't have concerns. One part I will certainly agree with you on is the idea that those in power want to stay in power. That has also always pretty much borne out true. I mean, what's the phrase? Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Not quoting passages there or anything, just a truism that is borne out way, way, way too many times. I'm watching this, it broke into this documentary series on, I think it's Netflix over the weekend, of how to be a dictator or the rule book to be so. I mean, it goes over, some usual suspects, Hitler, Idi Amin, Saddam Hussein, and the fact that there's this whole list, and that's only like half of it. I've only made a bit way through the series of how often people just try to keep a hold of it no matter what. That power, scratching, scraping, and be damned if you're in the way of it, is just nuts and bears out throughout history. Constantly, consistently. And I'm sure even before things were written down, there were people that were out there doing that. So I have no doubt in my mind, not the slightest bit, that somewhere out there, someone is trying to do something that they say will give them all the power forever, because that is unfortunately human nature. It just is. And therefore, what it takes for people to do to deal with that, to counteract for it, is being informed, talking about it, and talking about what's important to you. And that's why, partially, not exactly like, hey, we're anti-dictator, therefore we'll do this show. I mean, we are anti-dictator, but that wasn't exactly the method what we came about to do this show. But hey, I guess it fits in. Point is that people talking about the issues, talking about what's important to them, however that comes out to you, is important. And that's why we don't do like cancel culture, groupthink. If you're outside the body politic, you're not permitted to be here, because that's not what we do. We want to talk about these things. And even if you got something that someone else may be seeing off the wall, let's talk about it and come to maybe not a consensus. We're not here to enforce consensus, because, well, I'm not running for office any damn time soon. Let's just put it that way. Point is that if it's important to you, talk it, speak your truth, but also don't let it just be here on this show. As much as I certainly want everyone to be on this show and talking and doing about it, make sure this goes on also like into your life as well, because if it just stops here, well, that's where it stops. It needs to also continue on. So I hope you're also living and proving out the things you talk about there as well. So let's go ahead and take that next break. Right. Well overdue for that next break. Okay, trying to get back on track here with this next break, taking a few more calls, squeezing in what we can before the end of the hour. We never quite get there with all the things we want to do, but stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break. You're on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Again, that number, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Fidel Moreno Mesa with your CBS 4 News Update. Crews with the Sunland Park Fire Department and Sunland Park Police responded to a reported gunshot victim on the 100 block of Calle Diaz in Sunland Park. The Sunland Park Fire Department put out a tweet about the incident around 12:30 Friday morning. Our crews on the scene saw New Mexico State Troopers. This is a developing story, and we will bring you more information as we get it. The 16-year-old suspect in the deadly Cielo Vista shooting has now been arrested and charged with murder. El Paso police say they turned over custody of the teen to the Juvenile Probation Department. In addition to the murder charge, the suspect is also facing 3 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. A Las Cruces man was sentenced to 15 years in prison for sexually assaulting an underage household member. As part of a plea agreement, 51-year-old Gilbert McDonald pleaded guilty on 2 counts of criminal sexual penetration and 1 count of criminal sexual contact of a minor. For more news headlines, head to our website at cbs4local.com. I'm Fidel Moreno Mesa with your CBS 4 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
A crash on I-10 eastbound at the Zaragoza exit, slowing traffic. The right lane is blocked there. I-10 eastbound, Aircraft to the Patriots, a 7-minute delay. Heavy traffic on I-10 westbound from the Loop to the Patriots, a 5-minute backup. And on the 54 southbound, McCombs to Trans Mountain, 9-minute delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. Your weekend forecast, weather for your Saturday looking nice. We're going to see mild conditions going into this evening. Lows tonight dropping down into the 40s by tomorrow morning. We're looking at 70s for your Saturday. Sunday, we have a weather-worn day for wind. High wind watch in effect 9 a.m. through 11 p.m. on Sunday. Could see gusts to 60 miles per hour by Sunday. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Want to save 50% on new blinds? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters with free shipping and prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 50% off any order during Blindster's extended President's Day sale. Hurry, sale ends March 1st. Blindster.com.
Why do you buckle up when you get in your truck? Maybe you do it to get home safely to your loved ones, or because you take your job as a professional driver seriously, or because you want to follow the law to stay safe. Remember, it doesn't matter how long you've been driving, or even if it's a quick trip. Wear your seatbelt to stay safe on the road. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. That's www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. And remember to buckle up when you get behind the wheel. Paid for by FMCSA.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Want to save 50% on new blinds? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters with free shipping and prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 50% off any order during Blindster's extended President's Day sale. Hurry, sale ends March 1st. Blindster.com. This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
If you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my friends. For my community.
For everyone here. We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies us. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages that we are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Again, whatever works for you, as we have still considerations of doing all the stuff that we want to do around here. you're in the right place here. And of course, that phone line, still squeezing in what we can before the end of the show. Never get to quite all that we want to, but we do our level best. 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And so in deference to that, well, let's just get back to it here. So right now we do have, I believe, Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hello, Andrew. My source for most of these statistics come from Carnegie Europe on the internet.
Okay.
According to several United Nations reports, the war toll on Ukraine by the end of this last year was humongous. Around 18,000 civilian casualties, up to 40% of total housing damage, 50% of Ukraine's energy infrastructure destroyed or damaged, and about 16 million Ukrainians had to leave their homes, and up to 18 million people, or 40% of Ukraine's population, will need some sort of humanitarian aid in the coming months. Zelensky was elected by his people on a campaign of peace with Russia, not war. In April of last year, Zelensky and Putin had worked out a peace deal, but because of Biden's and our country's insistence, and the insistence of Boris Johnson of the UK, this deal didn't go through because they wanted a regime change in Russia, and Zelensky was told that they did not want this peace deal. And now we are on the brink of nuclear war, where the people in Washington, D.C., in case you haven't heard, have built bunkers so they would survive this nuclear war. The rest of the citizens of the United States would be on their own. If you are against this march to war, please call your members of Congress and senators and make your voice heard. This proxy war, I mean, would you like to have all that stuff here in the United States happen?
I mean, absolutely not. And okay, let me just say two things here briefly, that I am in no way, shape, or form in favor of any outcome that essentially Vladimir Putin would like. He needs to be roundly defeated. But let me also say this, that if we're not looking at de-escalation, trying to make this not become a worse kind of thing, that is, well, that's simply put, not the route we can, need, or should be taking. Because we are, I mean, yeah, there is increasingly, I mean, the saber rattling, whether you believe it or not, the fact that the trajectory that we are on, no pun intended, considering that we're possibly talking about ballistic missiles when it comes to this, is very bad. I mean, the fact that I had heard about it once or twice back in my school days, the concept of the nuclear sponge. If you've ever heard of this one, anyone out there, the idea that the missile fields essentially we have in the center of the country was both a way to have greater, essentially, territorial security when it came to our missile launch silos, because there would be at least some kind of warning when we saw them coming over the coast so we could launch the missiles up, but also the idea that those would be the primary targets and therefore where most of the arsenal being aimed at us would go. The fact that I've heard that come up again, and not just historical Cold War analysis context, definitely gives me pause, because seriously, the fact that we are even beginning to consider the implications of this again means we are not going in a direction that I am very favorable of.
I just hope that everybody that feels they don't want this war over here, they don't want nuclear war, they need to call their congressmen, their senators, tell them to back off and get to the negotiation table again. We'll have to take care of the Ukrainian people for what we've done to them. And and the same way that, we should do things for the people in East Palestine because of what we've done to them. But it is a matter that we have to take, we do have to take responsibility for that. But we need to get to the negotiation tables and forget about this march to war. This is very dangerous. And how dare them put us in a situation where we even have to think about this possibility.
I mean, I'll agree with you there in general with it. I haven't seen the exact stats you're talking about, but it sounds more or less on the idea of it here. I mean, we have been seeing devastation that could be widespread, and I certainly wouldn't want here being focused on Ukraine right now. It's kind of, you could think of it as the whipping boy right now for this proxy war. And there is not a whole lot of people that I'm totally happy with involved in this, but I will say that peace at any cost is also not totally what I'm interested in, because that is very much, in my mind, the playbook that is being sought by essentially the Russian administration as well, you don't want the worst consequences, so you better just give us what we want. And I don't see that being a good outcome for the long term here. I think that off-ramps de-escalation is absolutely necessary, but cannot be the only thing. I'll also say that.
Ukraine is actually drafting 16-year-olds to go to war at gunpoint now.
Mm-hmm.
That is how far they have come. This is not, and it's all now. It's our war and Zelensky proxy, and all the things that have gone on with Zelensky. He's a grifter, just like Biden. We need to get to the negotiation table.
I agree in concept, but again, the devil is always in the details.
My last thought is, of course, let's go, Brandon.
Well, I appreciate the point in the call and the discussion on this. You have a good weekend there.
Stay well, stay safe. God bless.
All right. And I think we got time for one more quick call before we end the program here for today. We have Kevin on the east side with us right now. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew. I believe I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the last callers, not the last, but one of the last callers say that Catholics are not Christian.
I think he said they couldn't call themselves Christian if he didn't essentially go along with his logic there. I don't think he was saying they weren't Christian, though. I know that there is other reasoning out there that exists along those idea, Babylon, stuff like that. I don't think he was going along that line of it, though.
But, I mean, what was he saying? Did he say, Catholics are not Christian, or?
No, I think it was more of a call to action. I'm not trying to put, I think you're referring to Tony from the west side there. So I'm not trying to put words in his mouth. My interpretation was that essentially kind of a railing against the idea of shopping cart Catholics more than anything.
Okay, because I'm looking at the dictionary. Funkin Wagnall's volume 1, page 111 says, Christian, one who believes in or professes belief in Jesus as the Christ.
Yeah, I mean, that's my understanding, and anyone who professes themselves to be a believer in Christ would also be, by my understanding, a definition of Christian as well. So maybe I misheard him, but I'll be willing to let him speak for himself on a future call in that case.
Roger that. Okay, thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. All right, and with that is going to take us through that last break right now. So coming up after this break, talk a little bit more about what we got coming up for you on the show, some of the weekend programming, of course, as well as what's coming up next week for you. Also, stay tuned, more Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
An earlier accident, I-10 eastbound at the Zaragoza exit is blocking the right lane and the right shoulder. There's a crash on Joe Battle northbound after Rojas at Paseo del Este. I-10 eastbound between Cotton and McRae, it's a 7-minute delay. Montana Avenue eastbound McRae out to Zaragoza, 18-minute backup. And heavy traffic on the 54 southbound McCombs to Trans Mountain, 15-minute delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Want to save 50% on new blinds? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters with free shipping and prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 50% off any order during Blindster's extended President's Day sale. Hurry, sale ends March 1st. Blindster.com.
Let's face it, credit cards are pretty much a necessity.
New tires for the car? Here's my card.
I order takeout, here's my card. And most of us just accept the high interest rates credit cards charge as a necessary evil.
What are you going to do?
Get a low fixed-rate credit card consolidation loan from Lightstream from $5,000 to $100,000 and pay off those credit card balances. Apply online, and you could get your money as soon as the day you apply. The average credit card company charges over 19% APR. But with Lightstream, you can get a fixed rate as low as 7.99% APR with autopay and excellent credit.
Now I can pay off my high-interest credit cards and save money with a much lower rate.
Apply today at lightstream.com/radio and get an additional interest rate discount. That's lightstream.com/radio. Lightstream.com/radio.
Subject to credit approval. Rates range from 7.99% APR to 23.99% APR and include a 0.5% auto pay discount. Lowest rate requires excellent credit. Terms and conditions apply, and offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/radio for more information.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin. This is Matt Crowder live at the gas station on 41st Street reporting on those skyrocketing gas prices. Excuse me, miss. Are you buying less gas now because of the high prices?
Oh, I never pay full price for gas anymore. I just use the free Upside app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Upside app?
Yes, I get real cash back every time I buy gas.
Well, does that actually add up to anything?
I've made around $200.
Wow. Well, there you have it. Stop paying full price for gas. Download the free Upside app and get real cash back every time you buy gas. This is Matt Crowder Radio News Network. Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code SMILE for an extra 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, to PayPal, or any gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code SMILE for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code SMILE.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Had a hell of a week, and we got another one coming up for you. Some of the topics we're working on for you all, more on that downtown deck, at the very least the community study for it, contingent on a whole lot of other things, including what will actually happen with like TxDOT, but those potentials, there's more community outreach and things like that going on, so we're working on that for you, as well as other concepts such as, well, where does Texas rank as, say, well, when it comes to property taxes, those kind of things. We got more studies working on that for you. Of course, AI, still trying to get some experts, shall we say, and not just my analysis of on it there. So there's a whole lot more coming. And, of course, the legislature continues chugging along, the state legislature, that is, the legislative session still going on. So we'll have to leave it there for this week. Of course, be sure to tune in tomorrow for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing 10 to noon here on 690, as they talk and we talk with military historian and Fort Bliss official historian, at least previously, John Hamilton, about the Buffalo Soldiers on Fort Bliss, of course, in deference to Black History Month, which we're at the tail end of. But that'll be it, doing it up for us for today. We got a lot more that we are going to be covering. We'll continue to do so. But until then, until next time, I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you to everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. We'll do it again Monday, as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. So until then, until next time, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when you're out on the road, and have a great evening and a great weekend, y'all. We'll see you on Monday. Tune in for the History Radio Show.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
An earlier accident, I-10 eastbound at the Zaragoza exit is blocking the right lane and the right shoulder. There's a crash on Joe Battle northbound after Rojas at Paseo del Este. I-10 eastbound between Cotton and McRae, it's a 7-minute delay. Montana Avenue eastbound McRae out to Zaragoza, 18-minute backup. And heavy traffic on the 54 southbound McCombs to